Welcome to Micka on Influence, your go-to podcast for bold conversations and impactful insight into influencer marketing, content creation, and the ever-growing creator economy. Every week, we are diving deep into real stories, smart strategies, and game-changing moves shaping this dynamic space. From top creators to brand strategists, CMOs to media planners, we bring you raw, actionable insight straight from the front lines. This is where influence meets intention. Let's get into it. Hello and welcome to Micka on Influence. It's the channel where we talk about influencing and marketing and how we're breaching that gap. Every week I bring you incredible guests that is very well knowledgeable, very wise in their fields. Today, joining me is Lily Vasic, brand manager of RCL and LiveKindly. How are you doing, Lily?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for joining me. Well, for our viewers watching right now, how did you first start in marketing?
So it's an interesting story. It wasn't part of my career plans at all. I actually studied chemical engineering at first,
Okay.
and I worked as an engineer in industry for 8 years, doing all sorts of things. Loved the industry in South Africa. And at some stage, I just thought to myself, you know what? Why not try something new? I'm a big believer that we don't have to do the same thing our whole life and we need to follow our passions. And yeah, I had recently become plant based myself for health reasons. And I noticed that LiveKindly were looking for a brand manager. And I thought, you know what? Why not try something new?
Yeah.
And yeah, since then, I've been here for 1 year, absolutely loving the experience. And marketing, I really think, is a really cool place to work.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And what drew you specifically to plant-based and sustainable foods?
So I've always felt, even when I was growing up, that I wanted to do something that makes a difference, and I didn't really know what that might be.
Mhm.
And about a year and a half ago, I watched a documentary called Game Changers on Netflix, which is all about how athletes who choose to eat plant based, how that actually positively affects their performance. And I'm an avid runner. And I thought, you know what, let me just try it for a month. And I haven't looked back. And the more research I actually did into plant based eating, I realized what a massive impact we can make from a sustainability perspective and from a climate change perspective just by tweaking our diets little by little.
Mhm.
And yeah, so the role that I have now just fits perfectly into that space. And I feel like although that I'm doing a cool marketing role with all the fun elements that comes with marketing, I also get to do something that I really think is meaningful and makes a difference.
I love that. Let's talk marketing, specifically how
Cool.
influencers tie in and how do they help build brands' authentic relationships with their audiences.
So this is such a topic I'm passionate about. I think from a marketing perspective, digital marketing and social media marketing is my absolute favorite
Mhm.
because I am an avid doom scroller myself, constantly on TikTok and Instagram. So it's cool to actually work in that space.
Yeah.
And what I've always felt is that we are constantly bombarded with ads.
Oh,
Buy
yes.
this, try this, this is better than this. And we actually get ad fatigue as consumers.
Mm.
I think there was a study done at some stage that said that we are bombarded with tens of thousands of adverts every single day, and it just gets too much.
Mm.
But with kind of influencers becoming quite a mainstream way of talking to consumers, I feel like they cut through the noise.
Yeah.
And instead
Mhm.
of it feeling like you're just being told to buy something or try this, try that, and just being overwhelmed, I feel like influencers have this role of actually connecting with you as a person, even
Yeah.
though it's through your screen. And a lot of the influencers that we follow almost become kind of like our friends in a way. We rely on them and we see them often and we get to know them. And it's almost like a way of conveying information about products and about what's happening in a much more authentic way that sticks with people, I find a lot better.
Okay, I love that. And tell me about prioritizing influences. Like, what do you specifically prioritize besides the following when looking at selecting specific influences?
Great question. For me, I'm very particular about authenticity.
Yeah.
I find that often the follow account actually will not have much by way of telling you whether or not somebody's authentic. Yes, a lot of the time when somebody has more followers, they've obviously become successful and well known for a reason. But it's really all about how believable a person is and how well they tell their side of the story of whatever product they're sharing and what their personal experience is. And I find that again, with us being bombarded all the time with all this information, having a little bit of that authenticity where you actually understand where a person is coming from and you understand a little bit more about them and why they might be enjoying a certain product, for example, it feels like it reaches a lot more people a lot more effectively than necessarily somebody who's just very popular.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that one, definitely. And talk to me about some successful campaigns you've had. What made it stand out for you?
Cool. So we've done quite a couple of successful and less successful campaigns. I think we learn as we go. One of my two brands that I look after called or Like You Like It, a plant-based food brand. We recently we almost have like an always on influencer campaign where we wanted to do something different. I think previously when we worked with influencers, we've always given them a strong brief, say, okay, this is what you need to know about the product, this is the messaging, this is, please also be aware of one, two, three health benefits, whatever. But with this campaign, we thought, you know what, we need a way to cut through the noise and really reach as many people as possible, make sure that people see our content and enjoy it. How do we do that without it feeling like just a script? And what we decided to do is just say to our agency that supported us is let the influencers just make good, fun, interesting, funny content. No
Mm,
brief whatsoever. We don't care what recipe they use. We don't care if they do a recipe, if they do a joke, if they just relate to the product. They can use any one of the products. We just let them have fun with it. And what we found is that a couple of the influencers really resonated with having that creative freedom. And
mhm.
what we ended up seeing is content that was, for example, influencers decided to use some trending sounds. One of my favorite one was, I don't know if you watch Love Island, but our content creator used the Mamacita sound, which
I don't
was,
have to watch
and
it. It's training.
you know that sound exactly. And we never briefed that in. And we
Mm,
just thought, you know what? Let's see how it does. And our consumers and our watchers just resonated with it. And I
mm,
think the lesson that we got out of this is our content creators are creators for a reason. And it's
mm.
about giving them the freedom to really be creative and do things on their own terms to get that true authenticity that resonates with people.
Wow. Yeah, it really helps when you give them that kind of freedom, and obviously it did amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. That's just one example. Yeah.
Fantastic. There are obviously some pitfalls as well when it comes to rolling out these campaigns. What are some of the pitfalls you've encountered, or and how can we avoid them?
Cool. Yeah, so I think the first one I already touched on is when we found that when you give too much direction and
Hmm.
too much guidance
Yeah.
to influencers and content creators, what you find is that many start to follow it almost like as a script. And what you get is a very generic, advert like presence with your content where there's nothing wrong with it, but it starts to feel like viewers of that content can really tell, like, okay, this is a paid content piece. It doesn't feel authentic at all. I don't know if this person even likes this product. So I think that's an important thing, is that really to just watch out that you don't over direct people. Yes, it's important to give a couple of basics, like this is what you need to know, but people, influencers, need to be able to explore a product themselves and decide on their own as well what they like about it and share that authentically. I think another big learning has been that if we who receive, let's say, a submission of a piece of content, we might like a piece of content internally as a team, but it might not do well with our consumers. And sometimes we might not like a piece and it's done really, really well. So it's
Mm,
important to remember that we cannot always judge very well what people in South Africa might resonate with. That's where also the trust element and a play and experimental element comes in when it comes to content. That it's a good idea to really just trust your creators and put stuff out there and just see how it does, so you can learn what actually resonates, as opposed to just being stuck like, oh, okay, I know what I like and this is going to work. Sometimes it doesn't work out that way.
All right, perfect. And how do technology and specialist influencer agencies actually contribute to campaign success? Do they, or does it really play such a big factor?
Absolutely. I think we've got some amazing agencies that have incredible databases, especially when it comes to managing nano influencers, and knowing exactly what the bios of those influencers are and where they're located. And some of the technology that is available to us now, for example, with the SALT team, is we can get very specific in terms of finding influencers that are in specific areas when we do localized campaigns. And it's so amazing that we can say, okay, we'd like to do, like recently, we'd like to do a campaign in Durban that talks to consumers in Phoenix, in Chatsworth, in this and this area. And we can find influencers who fit that bill so perfectly, and they influence in their local sphere, and resonate through that local authenticity. And that's only possible through the kind of the technology that some of our agencies have.
Okay. And do you prefer keeping this function in-house, or do you see outsourcing as a viable alternative?
Much prefer outsourcing. We have worked with influencers directly, and I found that when you outsource, you first of all you remove the headache of actually managing the discussions and the negotiations, etc., with the influencers. You leave that to the professionals. And also, it just allows you to access a much greater database and have
Mm,
a team that specializes in finding the best people for you and the best profiles for you without you looking for it yourself. So, I highly recommend only outsourcing to professional agencies, just for that kind of headache, and the ability to get the best that's out there.
yeah. Just a bit off script, what do you do, or have you ever encountered where you approach the influencer before you approach the agency and the offer or the amount that they asked was sky high, and you were like, no, but for what we are asking you to do, it's not going to work. How do
Absolutely.
you handle that?
It's literally that. So we've had a couple of awkward situations, and sometimes it actually the rates change from agency to agencies. We've had influencers who quote us for a certain price through one agency, but will give a completely different kind of price to another agency. So you also have to be clever sometimes and know which agencies to work with for what. But it can be challenging, and sometimes, especially when you've agreed to pay for a certain piece of content and it's not up to scratch, to have
Yeah.
those conversations, that ideally is best managed by a professional team. Yeah, so
Mm.
it can be a little bit tricky. And I do find that our agencies, our professional agencies, definitely negotiate much better rates than we can on our own.
Marketers want a crowd of real fans of your brand shouting your praises. The Salt has South Africa's biggest nano influencer community, over 500,000 subscribers strong, turning authentic stories into results you can measure. Think word of mouth, but supercharged, with trusted voices and real-time data to back it up. Our creators don't just spread the word, they build credibility and loyalty that sticks. Ready to tap into SA's largest network of brand champs? Reach out to the efficient team at thesalt.co.za and book your next campaign. Then sit back and watch your reputation and sales take off.
Is there a specific formula to like work out what your rate should be according to account or metrics or analytics? I feel like a lot of influencers they struggle with that, the rate card. It's such a scary thing to set up.
It's super tricky. It's super tricky. That's why when you leave it to your kind of your agency to help you out, it's
Yeah,
it's so straightforward, because you come to an agency and you say, "Look, I've got a budget of this many rands. I
yeah.
need 5 pieces of content. It needs to be from a micro influencer, it needs to be from a nano influencer, and I need this much to be spent on the paid media element." And then they find you the right people that can fit that bill, as opposed to
Mm,
you looking for yourself. asking for a rate card, then you negotiate the budget, etc., etc. Like this, you just come and you say, okay, this is what I can spend. Find me people that can fit within this bill. So
Yeah.
much easier. And I'm assuming then the agencies have a way of kind of advising content creators as to what an appropriate rate card is.
Mm, yes, okay, great advice. Thank you for that. The trends, all right. There's so much trends happening right now. Are you noticing a specific trend that is really rising in influencer marketing right now?
Yeah, I think it's such an interesting space. I think there's always something happening in influencer
Mm,
marketing. I think for the many years that I've been on social media, we've seen the rise of influencers, we've seen the rise of celebrity influencers, and lately, what I've noticed is that there's been almost like a downfall of your really, really big influencers and your celebrity influencers and how well received they are.
mm,
And I think that there's almost been a bit of a disillusionment that the public has had with very famous people. And that the sense is that when a product is being sold, for example, Kylie Jenner.
yeah.
She used to be so popular with her lip kits, and she was the ultimate kind of influencer girly, what, a decade ago.
Mhm.
Now, I think if she tries to kind of sell a product, there's almost like this level of people are like, are you just trying to make money and make money off of us? So do you really believe in this product?
Yeah.
Whereas the trend that we're seeing, it's your kind of your much smaller local influencers that build a relationship with you and share a lot on their platforms about who they are and what they stand for. When they try and kind of share specific things about a product that they are, perhaps working with a brand on, it just feels like, all right, so I know this person, I trust them. They're not this famous person sitting on billions of dollars. They probably actually really believe in this product, and maybe I can trust that too. So I think the number one trend that I'm seeing is that it's the smaller, authentic creators
Mhm.
that believe in something and stand for something that are really the ones that are doing well.
I love that. And for aspiring influencers right now or marketers that are tuned in, what's the best way to educate and engage an audience without coming across too salesy, but to kind of just keep it smooth?
Mm,
What would your advice be?
100%. I think the first thing I've already mentioned, and I suppose I can't say it enough, is that you need to trust your creators. As a marketing manager, as a brand manager, you need to have that trust in that your creator knows what they're doing
Mm,
and that your agency knows what they're doing. And yes, some will always be better than others, but give people the creative license to interact with your product as they see fit. And for example, for a food brand, create the recipes that they want and communicate it in a way that makes sense for them, because that's what made them content creators and influencers in the first place. So trust in the creative process of your creators. And I think that the second thing is, as brand managers and marketeers, as well as content creators and influencers, you really need to believe in the product
mm,
that you are interacting with and that you're talking about, that you're selling. I think that, especially on TikTok, it can be very cutthroat, and
mm,
people can see when something is just being sold to you for the sake of it being sold. But the people can also see when you genuinely might believe in a product and you believe that, let's say, it's better for you, that it's changed your life in some sort of way. That really shines through the content. So if you've
mm.
got those two things down, belief in your product as well as allowing the creative elements to come through naturally, I think a lot of the time what you end up with is a really magical piece of content.
Fantastic. And where do you see influencer marketing evolving over the next few years?
I think that in the coming years, we'll probably see. Sure, I think it's gotten quite a busy space on social media when it comes to our creators. I think all platforms are quite busy. We've got creators on YouTube, on TikTok, on Instagram, on Meta. I think we'll just continue to see more and more focus on and interest in your local sphere. I think the world has become very big and very noisy. I think a lot of us are constantly seeing everything that's happening in the world, and we're almost starting to shut down a little bit from what's happening in other countries. Whether or not we should be doing that is difficult to say, but a lot of us are almost saying, gosh, I actually just need to worry about my community and my little town that I'm in. And that's where your local smaller influences and what people are talking about in your local sphere is continuing to become more and more important. So I think that reliance on your nanos, as well as just kind of what's happening in your local space, will continue to be quite a big thing for us to look at.
Awesome. And I'm looking forward to seeing that also just rise a bit more because I feel you. It absolutely, I'm going to trust the local that is situated in
Yeah,
the area rather than
exactly.
someone that is, you need to take a plane to get to their house. Like, how do you know what's going on here?
Exactly. And for example, it's simple. In South Africa, we've got certain political issues, so certain cultural aspects, certain economic disparities. It's
Yeah.
very hard for us to relate sometimes to what people are going through in the US. We've got our own problems. But if somebody in, let's say, in a city 500 kilometers away from you is dealing with something and talking to you about something, you're going to pay attention because you're like, okay, this is relatable, this is where I am. This
Mm.
person gets me. This is what I want to listen to.
Yeah, absolutely. And lastly, what is your perspective on nano influencers and then the growing trend of customer generated content?
By customer generated content, you mean branded content?
So I mean, in terms of like customers actually that's been using a product or a service for a number of months or years, and they're speaking truthfully on their experiences versus someone that is hired to promote the specific service or brand.
I think there's a role for both,
Yeah.
and it's interesting. It's quite difficult to kind of find yourself in a space where you are comfortable with customer generated content, but it needs to be, obviously, first of all, you need to believe in your product. And if you are working for a brand and if you're selling something that you know is a great product and you've put your best foot forward with it, then you know that customer generated content is something that you can rely on. Um, we've often, with our main brand, Fries, we've often found that because we so believe in our products, we so believe in the quality of our products and the taste of our products. Um, a lot of the time, we get submissions of just people making recipes and comparing our products to other brands and just constantly commenting that how much they love our products. And it actually has such an amazing role to play for us. And what we all we really can do is we thank those creators. Maybe we'll send them a package, we'll repost on our social media, but we really rely on those types of content to again be very authentic, because like you're saying, that's not hired content, it's not paid for content, so it
Yeah.
means a lot to us as a brand when that happens. But of
Mm.
course, paid for content from hired influencers can be very strategic. So if you've got a specific campaign, or if you've launched a new range and you want people to know about those products, or a campaign that you're running, for example, we're looking at running a competition in the coming month or two, where we will be giving away cash prizes for any content creator that
Ooh.
creates a winning burger recipe. um, that kind of thing is best done and communicated with hired influencers, because then you can be very specific and targeted in terms of the areas where you're targeting, as well as kind of what is being communicated. So absolutely a place for both.
Wow, fantastic, Lily. Thank you for all of the great advice. And to our viewers right now, don't forget to like, follow, subscribe. Tell me in the comment section what are three top tips you took from this interview. And I hope you enjoyed it. To all our influencers and our marketers, keep connecting, keep on creating, and keep on being influential. Until next time, bye.
That's a wrap on this episode of Micka on Influence. I hope you're walking away with fresh insights and new ideas to level up your influencing game. If you loved what you heard, don't forget to subscribe, follow, and like, and also share with your network. Join the community obsessed with mastering the art and science of influence, because in this space, we don't just follow trends, we create them. Until next time, keep creating, keep connecting, and stay influential.